It's Tuesday, December 31st, and this is now on HNN.
Kauai authorities say the remains of all 7 victims in a fatal helicopter crash are accounted for.
And we're following developing news as Australian wildfires claim more lives.
The smoke and haze blackening the skies and blotting out the sun, making dawn look like midnight and mid-morning simply apocalyptic.
Hawaii's new red flag gun law starts this week. So how does it work?
Times Square is probably going to be the safest place on the planet Earth on New Year's Eve.
New York police are preparing for this year's decade-ending celebration. We'll take you to Times Square.
These stories, and we're still tracking dangerously large surf, coming up on This Is Now.
Hey, we begin This Is Now with a live look from our vantage point at the Digital Center. We're taking in a live video feed here of New York City, Times Square. It's the last day of the year, folks. Here it is. Times Square is expecting 1.5 million people to gather there. That's 1.5 million people. Looked up the temperature, 44 degrees right now, expected to be 35 there later tonight. And it's 4:30 right now. We just looked that up, 4:30 there, so they got some time to wait as well. Hey everyone, good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jonathan. Happy New Year. Jonathan here, alongside Ashley. We're here in the Digital Center. We're going to get you started with the latest local headlines, though.
Yep, so Kauai officials have confirmed that they recovered all 7 victims from last week Thursday's deadly tour helicopter crash. Only 6 of them were previously recovered. A team with the NTSB is on island investigating the crash. Yesterday, they flew over the site of the wreckage and say they'll be providing an update today on their investigation. Now, a Kauai fire chief told the Star Advertiser that the chopper hit a cliff, then fell about 150 to 300 feet. The paper is also reporting that the pilot was not instrument certified, which means that if bad weather hampered the pilot's visibility, he would not have had the skill to use the aircraft's instrumentation to navigate to safety. Now, the pilot and weather conditions are 2 of several factors that federal investigators will be looking into.
And county officials did tell us that we are going to get an update this afternoon. We'll bring that update along to you, whatever they do tell us, coming up on our digital platforms first. You'll see it here on Facebook, and you'll see it on our app and our HNN.com platform. All right, let's move on to some developing news. Raging wildfires in Australia.
Yeah, there was incredible video in our headlines. So the deadly wildfires continue to burn in Australia as firefighters brace for a heat wave this week. In the country's capital, fireworks helped ring in the new year despite criticism. Gwen Baumgardner reports.
Fireworks lit up the night sky above Sydney Harbor as 2020 entered with a bang. This year's show wasn't without controversy. Thousands petitioned to have the event canceled as much of the country continues to burn from recent fires. Sydney's mayor defended the display.
It is the most beautiful place in the world to celebrate New Year's Eve, and that's why people say it's on their bucket list.
But visitors in other parts of the country weren't so fortunate. 200 miles down the coast, tourists fled to the beach for safety as wildfires tore through the town of Bateman's Bay. In another southeastern town, firefighters used their trucks for shelter as flames surrounded them. The fires have left a path of death and destruction across Australia since September. Heat waves and high winds are forecast for the rest of the week as the fires show no signs of slowing down in the new year. Gwen Baumgardner, CBS News.
All right, thanks, Gwen there. And we just got an update on the death toll there, now risen to 7, so completely tragic what we're seeing there. We have an update regarding some news from the Pentagon, though.
Yeah, developing news out of Iraq. So the U.S. is sending more troops to protect the embassy compound penetrated by militias and their supporters in Baghdad today. U.S. officials say they do not plan to evacuate the embassy, but say they have taken actions to ensure the safety of American citizens and military personnel. Dozens of Iraqi Shiite militiamen broke into the compound, smashing a main door and setting fire to a reception area, drawing tear gas fired by embassy guards. Now, the mob is angered over deadly U.S. strikes that targeted the Iran-backed militia on Sunday.
Or we got even another update this time regarding Trump and China. Some news there that people have been waiting
Trump,
for.
says the U.S. has struck a trade deal with China. In a tweet this morning, he said he would be signing phase 1 of the deal on January 15th. China's lead negotiator is expected to travel to Washington for the signing. The president says phase 2 of the agreement will happen in Beijing, but a date has not been set yet.
All right, back here at home, we got some new news, some statistics that are just startling, really.
So for a third year in a row, Hawaii's population of about 1.4 million people has dropped. The U.S. Census reported nearly 14,000 residents moved away in the last fiscal year. So that means nearly 50,000 people have left the state since fiscal year 2015. The Grassroots Institute of Hawaii says to stop the exodus, policymakers should lower the cost of living by reducing taxes and regulations.
And I actually looked up a story that you did earlier in the year using some PRP poll numbers, and this is also mentioned in our Decade in Review special. 35% of households say they're better off financially this year than last. It's only 35%. And then that number drops to 50% when you compare it to 2015. So you really see and feel what people are dealing with out there.
And in that poll, too, there a large number of Hawaii residents have considered leaving the state. So obviously something needs to change to keep people here and to keep our population.
Well, we'll keep following that story, of course. All right, moving on. New laws take effect very soon.
That's right. So Hawaii's new red flag gun law goes into effect tomorrow, giving the court power to temporarily seize legal firearms. It's intended to prevent mass shootings and suicides. Lynn Kawano explains how it works.
Red flag laws designed to prevent mass shootings are gaining traction nationwide, even in states typically known as Second Amendment strongholds. At the start of 2020, Hawaii will join 16 other states and Washington, D.C. with a red flag gun law, Indiana and Florida included. The law provides a process to have a firearm taken away from someone deemed a danger to themselves or someone else.
Family members, law enforcement, educators, medical professionals can really look for signs that somebody is going to be a danger.
Erin Davis of the Brady United Group, a gun violence prevention organization based in our nation's capital, says the idea of temporary gun seizures came after numerous mass shootings where loved ones or mental health professionals previously expressed concern about the gun owner.
Oftentimes, the people who are closest to the shooter observe those sides, and they may not know what to do with it.
The bill Hawaii lawmakers passed this year is similar to the other states. The concerned person petitions the family court to have the firearms confiscated. It becomes a priority case, so removal and a hearing is set quickly. That is raising a red flag for groups opposed to the law.
It's normally you lose it when you commit a felony. In this case, this is only a civil proceeding, and yet you will lose that right. It makes it very difficult for the respondent, the gun owner, to actually defend himself.
Cliff Gu of the Hawaii Rifle Association says the law doesn't require an independent mental health expert to weigh in and fears it could be used as punishment in family disputes or issues between coworkers and even social media wars of words. Still, both sides agree there needs to be more dialogue to prevent mass shootings and the large number of suicides due to guns. The Hawaii Firearms Coalition says its research shows the vast majority of gun owners would avoid mental health care even if they know they needed it because they're afraid it will cost them their guns under the new law. It goes into effect on Wednesday. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Lynn, there for that report. Hey, we're taking a live look outside. Another live feed coming into the digital center right now. The time's now 11:39 here in Hawaii. We're looking at Pipeline right there. The big waves rolling in. Surfline says waves up to 18 to 20 feet. Ooh, look at that one right there. No one caught it. There is a lineup out there, folks. 18 to 20 feet there. We're dealing with some big surf. No reports of coastal flooding like we were concerned about. And, of course, no eddy like we were all hoping for. Let's check in with Guy Hoggy to get the very latest.
How's it on this New Year's Eve? We have a giant surf rolling into most north and west shores across the state. That's why a high surf warning is posted until early tomorrow morning. Big life-threatening waves for the country here, 25 to 35. Below eddy level, though, the Waimea Bay, even though it's nice, it's not big enough to be holding the eddies. So the official did a good call on this one. West shores, that's big and dangerous as well. Again, these wave heights will be slowly dropping through tomorrow. And the weather's going to be very nice. We have trade wind weather today, a few windward and Mauka showers will be rolling in through the day, but really not a whole lot of rain when you add it all up. Leeward sides won't get much at all. And that's going to translate into a beautiful New Year's Eve. We're going to see these trade winds slowly slow in the overnight hours, but still they should be strong enough to help us with smoke buildup from all the fireworks. Otherwise, Happy New Year, everybody. We'll be right back with more online and on air.
All right, thanks, Guy, for that report. Hey, we just had to dip into this live feed one more time. Look at Pipeline. Oh, big wave right there. You know this high surf we're talking about? That's just one of the issues that we're dealing with when we're talking about our changing planet, and that's a focus of part of our Decade in Review special.
Right, so the 2010s tested Hawaii's ability to handle natural disasters and offered a wake-up call for the decade ahead as we prepare for the changing weather of a warming planet. Let's take a look back at this Decade in Review.
I think it's really important to reflect on what's been happening within the last decade. We've been seeing all kinds of weather.
Home video shows the funnel-shaped water cone churning offshore, making a beeline for Lanikai Beach. This image gives a better perspective of how big it was as it skirted the Mokulua Islands.
My professors would always say, weather is what you get and climate is what you can expect. And you should always look back day by day at those weather elements to really understand the big picture of what climate is doing.
People in Hawaii are very aware that as residents on an island economy, that we're seeing the impacts more clearly, more visibly before other people in the global community. We see it in the way that our beaches are changing in sort of extreme flooding events. And these are now happening more frequently.
People here at Rocky Point say that the big waves cut into at least 9 properties along this shoreline, and some of them are barely hanging on.
We've had to basically cut our decks off so they won't float into the water. Our hot tub pulled it up.
You know, our friends in Mapunapuna have had tidal flooding in their roadways because that's all old fill fish pond land from back in the day, and now the ocean's beginning to reclaim that. And so that has been a wake-up call too.
Tidal flooding has plagued businesses and drivers in this low-lying area for years.
Over the years, I'd say I lost about half of my business because of the tide.
Coastal communities like Waikiki also face erosion and possible flooding during king tides, which are higher than normal tides that occur in clusters during the summer and winter.
Well, we really saw a huge sort of uptick in the temperature this last summer. It was a sweltering summer. Everybody felt it. We set over 200 heat records here in the state.
We've definitely had some record-breaking bills come in this summer, just like the temperatures themselves have been record-breaking.
The owner of Used Surfboards Hawaii in Kaka'ako says his latest AC bill is the highest it's ever been in his 7 years of business.
It went into the 1,000 range, which is, for me, mind-boggling. It's 80 degrees at 9 a.m. inside the shop.
I've been doing weather here since 1998, and this is the first time I can recall such a prolonged period where I'd put up a 7-day forecast and it's all 90s. Just all the records just being broken consistently, and all the way even into November we were still tying or breaking records.
This, climate change is something that we've known is happening for decades, but really in this last decade we've seen the increase of hurricane activity moving north towards us, the hurricanes getting bigger, stronger, the flood activity both in East Honolulu, and then the massive rain bomb in Kauai that was part of the same system.
If we stop, we're done. We gotta keep going. Look, holy.
The water came through my mom's bedroom and then just kind of jettied through the house. And my brother put my mom over his shoulder and carried her out of the house.
Show you some of the homes in the area. You can see the erosion taking down driveways. In this driveway right here, we have the Jeep that is submerged underwater.
I had grown up on that beach, and to go back there after those floods in April and see the pier just totally transformed. The roads washed out, gone, houses leaning, toppled to the side on the beachfront, multi-million-dollar properties just trashed. To see it firsthand and walk through there the day after, I was stunned.
This river you see behind me wasn't here before this storm, and now it seems quite substantial. The water cut a path, if you look upstream there, through the neighborhood.
Really an eye-opening moment to see the power of heavy rain. And I remember that all started just as a regular rainstorm, and it just kept on dumping. Nobody knew it was going to be this record rainstorm, 50+ inches.
You know, brothers and sisters down there that need help, because right now they're kind of stuck down there, they cannot move.
It shows you what Mother Nature can do, and it doesn't have to be a named storm to really pack a punch. That flood was historic in that it reshaped the community, literally.
The big concern with all of this, with climate change, experts are talking about when these elements are coupled together, when we have king tides and then a hurricane coming our way, how can we be prepared for that as an island community? So those are things we have to think about in the future and prepare for as we go into the next decade.
While a majority of the significant destruction caused by Iselle is the result of the toppling albizia trees and the hurricane gusts and winds, here in the coastal community of Kapoho and Vacation Land, the damage here was caused by rising tides and massive storm surge. At its worst, residents reported Iselle's storm surge as high as 4 feet.
Once the water went in from the first floor, it was really hard to get out, and we had to abandon the house as soon as possible. Then we saw electrical lines on the ground. Everything was, it was scary. It felt like we didn't expect it all.
Iselle did make landfall. It was a strong tropical storm, made plenty of damage to an unpopulated area, but a storm of that caliber, if it hit a populated area, we'd be in big trouble. But that was kind of a wake-up call for me.
It kind of showed the resilience of Puna that we got to see again years later for other storms and also for the lava in Leilani Estates.
The uncertainty.
A chaotic experience in that moment.
We're seeing this river move across this lawn.
The whole sky was lit up.
Sad to say it, this is not done any far away from it.
Trees are coming down, guys.
And the weight is intense.
Get back.
The weight's getting really intense.
I don't think I would ever be able to go back.
And I think those very first moments on that first day, it was just mind-boggling, right? Because you'd never seen anything like that.
And it was really smoking bad. You could smell it in the air. Oh.
It's not quote-unquote weather, but it is sort of related to what we do, which is watching how the planet works. So even though it's not rain or wind, ocean conditions like having a tsunami and an earthquake, we still look at that. And the tsunami in March of 2011, even though it's almost a decade ago, it still seems as fresh as yesterday because there are just so many images that I will never forget. Things like Ali'i Drive in Kona getting overrun by water.
We have breaking news coming into our news and want to break into that story now. This is a live picture of a water spout off the reef runway.
Climate change is a huge challenge, and as an island economy, we're feeling the impacts of climate change first. Sea level rise, coral bleaching events, catastrophic natural disasters. So climate change is this large looming challenge, and the science is telling us we really have a decade to address this challenge to avoid the more catastrophic impacts of climate change. And this is going to require behavior change across every sector of society.
Well, we're an island community and we've always been super adaptable, right? You kind of have to learn and move with nature's whims, right? Nature's much bigger than us. Nature doesn't bargain. Nature doesn't compromise. You know, we put this energy, we put this pollution out into nature, it's going to come back, and it doesn't really, look at the fairness of that.
And as we look back at the last 10 years, it's amazing how many close calls we had with hurricanes coming our way and even tsunamis coming our way, how many warm days we faced. And also the fires have been tremendous on Maui and the dry conditions with all the droughts that we've been facing as well. So looking at that as a whole, we should really take all of those elements so we can learn from it and plan better for the future.
Whoa, that was just a part of the Decade in Review special. Ashley and I were both a part of putting it together, along with our executive digital producer, Mary Orsino. You can check it out right now on all our digital platforms. That's HNN app, the .com. You can check it out on Facebook. We're going to premiere it again tomorrow. It airs on TV this Saturday. And then, what other way? Oh, Roku, Amazon. You can also look at it that way as well. So many ways to watch. So
all over the internet.
Please check it out. All right, you know where we got to check out? New York City.
Woohoo! Yep, so the police there have been preparing for the annual New Year's Eve celebration in Times Square. Event organizers practiced the midnight ball drop yesterday, and Mola Lengi gives us a preview of tonight's festivities.
We call it our Super Bowl.
This is your Super Bowl.
This is it. This is the big show. This is what we wait for all year long.
Ever since last year's ball drop,
I want to be part of it.
New York police have been preparing for this year's decade-ending celebration.
What's all the security on the ground here?
Oh, it's multi-layered. Every access point, you'll go through numerous steps of screening, from magnetometers to explosive vapor canines, and then heavy weapons team you'll see.
NYPD Assistant Chief Martine Matarasso oversees the Counterterrorism Bureau. She says nearly the entire department, thousands of officers, both in uniform and in plain clothes, will secure Times Square with forces on the ground and with the help of drones and helicopters in the sky.
Mr. Thomas, why'd you do it?
Questions over New Year's Eve security in Manhattan have risen in response to Saturday night's stabbing at a rabbi's home just miles from New York City, which left 5 people wounded.
I'd like to reassure people there are no credible threats.
But here on CTM yesterday, New York Police Commissioner Dermot Shea told the million-plus people expected to watch the ball drop this.
You will be very safe in Times Square.
It's a sentiment echoed by Assistant Chief Matarasso.
Considering all the security, this is probably going to be a pretty safe place.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be the safest place on earth.
Security preparations for the New Year's Eve celebration here in Times Square is a year-long process. In fact, NYPD tells us they'll begin preparing for next year's celebration tomorrow, just as soon as the ball drops. Mola Lengi, CBS News, Times Square.
All right, let's dip back into that live video feed of Times Square, where we're expecting those 1.5 million people to gather there very shortly. The time there now is 4:52, temperature still around 44 degrees. You know, we have a special correspondent there on the ground in Times Square. He's sort of like the Guy Hoggy of Times Square, I'd even say. You know, I'm talking about the naked cowboy, of course. If you've been there, you know who I'm talking about. He's going to give us some insight on how chilly it is and maybe even some tips on how to stay warm.
So, you're one of the people who is not dressed up warmly for New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
Why is that?
We've had a lot. It's been a warm year. It's been a warm winter so far. Last year I did the same thing, left the car in the garage just to be out here in the morning to try to take care of some of the revelers. You know, they come here to
entertain the crowd.
Exactly. And, you know, last year was like 20s at this time, so I barely got here alive just taking the train. I don't take the train. So
It's much warmer this year. We're thankful for that. And clear skies. We know it was raining yesterday.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day for New Year's. Thank God. Like I said, last year they sat out here in the rain. It was very tough, I'm sure.
Are you here every single New Year's Eve?
I'm here every day of the year. I mean, I do like 321 days a year. This year I got about 326 days. The other days are visiting a family or doing Mardi Gras or Panama City Beach for spring break and Biker Week. I do a few other events, but I'm here all year. And I always come here on New Year. I don't leave until New Year's Eve because, you know, again, it's a lot of media. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a
This
big
is a
day.
big day for you. All right,
This
thank
is my
you.
birthday.
Thank you so
Let's
much.
do a song now.
Robert.
I'm the naked cowboy, keeping every ball you. It's New Year's, you all. You gotta do what you gotta do. Happy New Year, CBS. Laura Podesta, my favorite anchor in the world.
Yeah.
Laura, loving it there.
Do you think people recognize him with his clothes on?
I don't know. You know, I'd be thrown off there. But at least he's giving us the update. You know, it's way better than it was last year. I can't imagine being out there in the 20s in the cold rain. I remember watching that video last year, and I felt for those people. So again, low this year around 35, just above freezing.
Oh, hope they stay warm.
Yes, here's something to help stay warm, right?
I know. Well, if you guys go big on New Year's Eve, me and Jonathan won't because we have to work tomorrow. But Red Lobster is featuring a new cocktail to help take the edge off your 2020 hangover. It's a limited edition Bloody Mary that comes with a lobster claw and is also topped with a jumbo shrimp and one of their famous cheddar biscuits.
I don't know about this one.
No, that looks pretty good.
It is a meal in a cup, though. Yeah.
It looks delicious. Well, January 1st is also appropriately National Bloody Mary Day.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I know, not so ironic, right? It comes after New Year's Eve. So the Lobster Claw Bloody Mary will be available the entire month of January.
I told you when I read that story, or initially I saw the word claw and I thought it included White Claw, so I was so excited for you.
That would be gross.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel that either. All right, guys, last show of the year. Thanks so much for being with us. We're going to be keeping with you all through 2020, so keep watching This Is Now, please.
And we'll be here tomorrow, so if you go to bed early and you're up tomorrow, we'll be here.
Yes, we're gonna leave you with New York City. You guys, Happy New Year.
Have a safe night, everyone.